You don't need another strategy. Here's what you actually need to figure out why you can't implement the things that you already know. I'm Dr. Brooklyn Storm, former psychologist, now business coach, and I help women just like us to build profitable private practices, usually in under 12 months. Being neurodivergent means I see the patterns that other coaches miss, but it also means I'm a truth teller, so I'm not interested in giving you any business advice that sounds good or might be trending, but doesn't actually work for us. Welcome to the Practice Momentum podcast, where we're going to get your private practice sorted out. Thanks so much for being here, and let's get on with the next episode. Hey there, welcome back. Okay, so look at this. We're going to do episode 2 of how to get clients without using your social media. I know you're going to love it. This one is one of my very, very favorite tools for getting inquiries and boosting your visibility. And here's the thing, when you hear what it is, you're going to roll your eyes maybe, and you're going to think, oh, come on, Brooklyn, you can do better than that. I already know about this. But here's the thing, you're probably underutilizing it. And that can happen when you don't click around and do all of the things, right? I know it happened to me as well. And what I'm talking about is the Google My Business profile. Now, hear me out here. I used to perhaps be like, maybe you were or are. I used to really just think, oh, it's like a telephone directory. I was saying this to one of my lovely clients today. I was like, yeah, it's just kind of like you think it's a telephone directory and that you've just got to essentially put your contact details in there and then click off and, you can tick it off your list of marketing activities. But the problem with doing that is Google will give you more goodness, more reach, right? Reach is the number of people that it will show your website to. So it will give you more of that free of charge. You don't have to pay for a Google ad as long as you do the things. But you might not know what the things are. So I'm going to talk you through what they are. And the other thing is, once you get this set up, it's just really a matter of keeping it fresh, right? Keeping on top of it. And yeah, there's so much cool stuff with this. So yeah, some of the ways that it gets underutilized at the moment is there are a lot of businesses that work online, right? And a lot of women in private practice will tell me, well, I'm not bothering with it because I can't verify my location. Google doesn't give a hoot that I'm online. But the reality is that it does, because Google's pride and joy is in being able to give people fast answers that are really, really highly accurate. So Google wants to make sure that in order to do that, it's only giving users information that's trustworthy, that's legitimate, that is in somebody's area. If they're wanting to do something in person, even if it's online, area can still count. So don't worry about that. But when it comes to building trust and legitimacy, Google business profiles don't want to see any ChatGPT stuff. Okay. So when it comes to Google, it's really, really strict about, it won't show your stuff as much as it could if it picks up that you've been writing with ChatGPT, okay? Which, of course, I'm feeling very smug about. Anywho, what's happening is with a Google business profile, used to be called Google My Business, right? But it's now called a Google business profile. It acts as what's called a trust authority node in marketing speak online, okay? Which its job is to give information to Google Search, to Google Maps, and also for, AI recommendations. So, when you go and type something into Google now, back in the day, like pre-AI, the Google ads that people paid a few $100s for, they used to come up first, right? And that's why people used to pay, still do, a few $100s. But with AI and all of the things, now what happens is the first thing that Google will show the user who's asking the question is information that AI has pulled together from a bunch of sources. So if you have an underutilized profile, I'm going to tell you exactly how to utilize it fully. But if you've got an underutilized profile, you're missing out on getting all of those referrals and all of those recommendations. And as I shared with you in the last episode, AI has become one of my biggest referral sources now. Okay. So we want this to happen for you too, especially because it means that you can get off Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and wherever you might be. Okay. Even if you have an online business or a telehealth business, the Google Business Profile strengthens something that's called EAT. Okay. And EAT it's 4 letters, it's an acronym, and it just stands for experience, expertise, authority, and trust. Okay. So when Google can pick up that those 4 things are there, that you've got experience, expertise, authority, and trust. Again, this is why it doesn't recommend as many websites that are like heavily, written by AI. It takes away from your experience, your expertise, your authority, and trust, right? When it's not you, because it's not you. But anyway, it really helps you to get found, which is very, very good. And also the other thing is that listing the business, the practice, as a service area business or practitioner address where it might be appropriate, and clearly stating online therapy Australia-wide in services and description, that is a missed opportunity if you're not doing it. Okay, so I'll just say it again. If you've got online telehealth, you just go and you list the practice for a service business area. That means you don't have to do all the taking photos of signage out the front and things like that, like we used to. If you do have a brick and mortar place, you can put your address, but in the description and everything, just be really, really clear and say online therapy Australia-wide and put it everywhere on your profile. Okay. Now, the other thing that can be really, really helpful is to make sure that you write fully the business description. Okay. And of course, optimize it. So the thing is that the business description is not really, in air quotes, about you. The purpose of the business description is to provide a ranking of the business, and it's an asset for the business because it's going to tell Google how relevant your business is to whatever your clients are looking for. Okay. So what can happen is when we're writing our Google business profiles, we tend to perhaps, if you're not one of my clients, you might be doing things like writing very vague descriptions about how you help all the people with the life transitions all the time in the safe spaces where you're not judging. And I could go on, you know my rant. And you're talking about, being ethical and blah, 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 blah. Who cares? We expect, that's like saying, come and buy my ice cream. It is cold. Well, of course it's going to be cold. Like, we don't have to state the obvious, people. I don't know why so many therapists talk about the safe spaces. Anywho, so instead of having a really vague description, that's where your messaging comes in. And that's why the message needs to be really specific. Okay. The other thing is, again, with the messaging, sometimes private practice owners forget to include a really concise yet very specific statement that tells Google who they help, where and how. Okay. So what works really, really well for your Google business profile is to have really, really clear identity anchoring, which looks like letting Google and anybody who comes across your profile know your profession, the type of clients that you work with, or they're presenting issues or challenges, things that they want help with. So your niche, modalities that you favor or lean towards, talking about any areas of interest that you might have, your location. Even if you're providing services online, like I do, I could still put Melbourne, right? Although I don't live in the postcode 3000, like everybody's got a fair idea, Melbourne. And then they're going to see in the description and stuff like that I only work online. But it gives Google and my potential audience a frame of reference so that they can sort of, picture me. So an example of this might go something along the lines of registered psychologist providing trauma-informed therapy for adults with anxiety and burnout, offering online sessions across Australia and in person in Mount Eliza, Mornington, the Gold Coast, like wherever. So what this does, when you've got that very simple structured sentence there, it supports something that the internet, AI, search engines refer to as query matching, which is just a very fancy way of telling the platform, yes, Brooklyn has the answers for this person who's Googling the question over here, and boom, you get matched. Okay. Now, one of the other things when I work with even my clients and they're like, yeah, I've got a Google business profile. I'll go and have a look. I can see it's not being fully filled out. And it's really common that they don't fill out the services section. Now, when you don't fill it out, how can Google recommend your practice? The services section on your Google business profile are one of the strongest relevant signals you can have in the whole Google sphere. So some of the common mistakes are leaving that whole section blank or just putting a very generic wording. Some people just put one word, psychology or counseling, right? Now, if you really are serious about getting clients and you really don't have enough clients yet, why would you just be lazy, which let's call it what it is. You're just rushing because you don't want to do it. I get it. It's boring. Nobody wants to sit down for an afternoon and muck around on a Google business profile. Yes, it's boring. Find a way of making it interesting for yourself, right? Put some music on in the background. Have your gin and tonic by the desk. I don't know. Figure it out. But the thing is, if you just put one word there, you're not going to get the benefits of having the profile up and running that somebody who's taken the time and put in the thought and the care to write full sentences. I mean, I don't even really feel like I should have to say this, but it happens, right? So anyway, very, very important. And the other thing too, the third sort of common mistake is copying and pasting stuff off their website without any structure. So again, you got to format things nicely. If you're just copying and pasting 3 or 4 bullets from the about section on your website, that's perfectly okay. But just make sure it looks okay in the profile. All right. Now, some of the things that you may not be using on your Google My Business profile, individual service entries for all the different services that you provide. So this is what I'm saying. If you just go counseling versus somebody who's taken the time to write them all out, and that person might say individual appointments and give a little description, or they might say initial assessments and give a little bit of a description. They might say anxiety counseling, trauma therapy, ADHD support, couples counseling, supervision if they offer it. They might mention their courses. They might mention their lead gen, right? You don't just put counseling. We want to put anything you do that you can get paid for goes in the services section as its own little service, and each service becomes what's called a search hook, right, for the internet. So for example, if people are going to click on trauma therapist near me, boom, this comes up, right, because it clearly says here you provide trauma therapy. The person who just was lazy and wrote counseling, even if they're a trauma specialist, they're not going to get that work, right? Google won't show their page, but Google's going to definitely show this one because it all matches and it adds up, right? Okay. Another thing is we want to really make sure that you understand what social proof is so that you can really leverage it with Google on your Google business page to get more inquiries, okay? So any review that you get also in and of itself becomes an SEO signal. It's not just a credibility signal for your business. So traditionally, SEO, it wasn't even a thing in our industry, right? As you know, I've mentioned this a million times before, but I'll just be super quick for those who are new and haven't heard it. Sorry. Advertising and this whole idea of testimonials and reviews, it's in marketing speak, it's still, I don't know, I'm going to say pretty new, but it's probably been nearly 100 years old now. We're not that far off. It was the 40s and 50s and 60s. That's when it really became a big thing. And it started when women started making their own money. And what was happening was, instead of being reliant on hubby for the money and having to justify every cent that she spent, she was now able to make her own buying decisions. But what was happening was, because women are super smart and savvy, a lot of the traditional advertising approaches that worked on men weren't having the same significant effect that they were with the women. And so there needed to be a change. This is the history of it, right? And anyway, what ended up happening was, one day some of the men noticed that they had been trying to sell the women on something. I forget what it was. And anyway, the women were like really not interested until they heard that another woman was using it, and that other woman started talking about how she liked it and all of this. Then the other women started to be more interested and warm up to the idea of, maybe I will buy this, I don't know, lipstick, whatever it was. And so that was when the idea first developed, right? And now you see it. It works really, really well having testimonials and reviews. If you are in retail, for example, maybe you work for Chanel or Dior, we want to have some reviews, or Amazon or Etsy, right? Reviews, they always work so well. And they're called social proof because it's proof from society rather than proof from an advertising person or proof from the seller that something works. And it's used to build trust, build confidence, and help people who might otherwise not buy it feel more comfortable buying. So that's what it is. And it's very, very important that you understand how to get a review, right? For all of these reasons, which is why inside Practice Momentum, they have access to like resources on getting like reviews, where they can have them, and for the things that they can have them for, and all the conditions that apply all the time, etc. But anyway, you get the idea. So the thing is that when you get a review, not only does it tell somebody in the public, like another potential client, that, okay, she knows what she's doing, she must be pretty good, it also is used to tell Google through the SEO that, hey, this is a, good website over here. This is a good business over here. We want to show it a little bit more. Okay. So it's really, 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 really helpful to understand too that Google doesn't really care how many star ratings you've got. Google, we care, right? It's a vanity metric. We all want to have only 5-star ratings, of course. Is that going to happen? No. But that's what we all want with our businesses. And we think that that is the most important thing. Well, it's not. What's to Google, who's going to, it doesn't cost you anything, and they're promoting you and they're marketing you through your website, they're more interested in what are the words that are being used in the review. Okay. So what we want to do is, be mindful of that. So think about the kinds of words that Google might need to hear about your business in order to show your business to more potential clients. So might need to hear things in the review about the modality, your approach, your philosophy, the experience that the client had, the outcomes that the client got, the results, all those kinds of things, right? Not just, oh, Brooklyn was so lovely and she ran on time and then she gave me a bit of overtime. And no, that's not helping anybody. Okay. Now, reviews influence your map pack rankings. So the map pack is when somebody does a search for something, and if you've got a Google My Business profile and yours is like the best one, yours gets shown, and Google will show a map to the potential client, and it'll have like 4 or 5 drop pins on it, right? The teardroppy shaped drop pins, and then all your contact details are underneath. That's called a map pack, right? So it influences that, and it ranks the businesses in that map pack. It also, reviews and social proof also influence click-through rates on Google, and they're considered when Google or Bing or Safari or whoever you're using is pulling together AI summaries and recommendations. So again, if you want to, I don't know, like if you're feeling inspired hearing about how lately most of my referrals are now coming through AI, if you're thinking that sounds pretty good, I'd like some of that too, well, this is what you need to do. Fill this section out correctly. Educate your clients. Now, just on that, be mindful with your code of ethics, depending on your profession and all those kinds of things, because it's not illegal to ask a client for a review. You're not going to go to jail or anything like that, but the ethics committee will definitely come down on you like a ton of bricks if your code of ethical conduct or professional conduct says do not solicit reviews. That means you cannot say to a client, even if she had a massive breakthrough and you both like, I don't know, high-fiving each other about how awesome the breakthrough was, you cannot say, could you please give me a Google review? No, that's off. But if they're going to go and do that, it's always helpful to understand this is how it all works and this is what it looks like. Okay. Yeah. Now, this is the other thing. On Google Business, I keep going to say Google My Business. I'm so old. But anyway, on the Google Business profile, so many women in private practice who have the profile up, they never use the feature called posts, or they will stop after they've put up a handful. If they're lucky, it might not even be a handful. They avoid them because they think, or they say to me, oh, what's the point? Nobody sees them anyway, or I'm already posting on Instagram or whatever it is. But the thing is that what they're missing out on is that every time they post, that post reinforces a few things to Google and to AI. It tells, I was going to say everybody, but Google and AI, that this business is still active, current, there's fresh content here. It shows that you have topical authority. So again, this is why we want a niche, okay? Google is never going to be able to recommend your practice or send a client your way if you're just saying you help with all the things. So when you're putting your posts onto your Google business page, just like you do everywhere else, they need to be niche specific, and this builds what's called topical authority. And the other thing too is when you're posting, even if it's just once a week, it also adds to something called service relevance ranking with Google. Some high impact post types that you might like to have a bit of a play around with can be ones, of course, around who this service is for. You could do frequently asked question style post. You might do, demystifying online therapy, like is it as good as in person? You know what I mean? Those kinds of things. So I would say if you're already blogging and the blog is doing well, i.e. it's bringing you clients, look at grabbing a paragraph or two of a really high converting post that you've got on your blog, repurpose it over here for your Google Business Profile posts, okay? The other thing too is Google doesn't care if things are a little bit rough. It doesn't need you to have the perfect post with the perfect spelling and grammar and the perfect image that's all lovely branded. I care about those things for you because I have high standards, and I want you to be seen in the best light possible. But hey, at the end of the day, Google doesn't care if it's Sorry, I just got interrupted because somebody with 4 paws just started barking at a leaf that had the audacity to roll across the lawn. Goodness me. So yeah, Google really doesn't care too much if the image is like perfect or not, or if you've got a typo or things like that. Okay. What Google cares about is this profile getting some love on some kind of regular basis? Okay. So there's that. Now, speaking of images, this is super important. Okay. Sometimes we can be tempted to just pull a stock photo, which is another one of my bugbears, as so many of you know, because you just shoot yourself in the foot. Again, it's kind of, yes, some people, they just don't know. True. Other people, they do know, and we're just being a little bit lazy because we're just rushing to get it done, and we'll just pull a stock photo from somewhere. Listen, when you do that, as I said, you're shooting yourself in the foot, because if you've got a very strategic image, it's going to help you a lot to get more clients and more visibility. For this reason, images are ranking and they are trust signals to Google. Okay, so we don't want to be just putting up boring stuff and stock standard stuff. Okay, Google can read image names. It can read the upload frequency, so it can see, is she adding an image every week or every month? And it can also read the diversity of the images that you're sharing. For example, if you were going to be posting about books that you really love and you recommend, you might always be posting books. Now, that's perfectly okay, but if you want to get more reach, it's good to mix it up. So maybe have a picture of you like a selfie, or you and a book. Have a picture of your office, of a cup of tea, of a bunch of flowers, of like, basically we want to kind of mix it up. Okay. Yeah. And of course, photos of you are so important, and the less edited and doctored they are, the better. So the research is showing now that consumers, i.e. our potential clients in our case, are gravitating more towards things that look authentic. So again, it just kind of, I'm having a smug moment again, guys. It just kind of does reinforce this idea of don't get chat to write your posts for you. And when you're making a little image, you don't always have to put them in Canva with your branding and, colors and nice fonts and things like that. Because what is being signaled as being a better predictor now of engagement with a brand or a business by a consumer or potential client is the authenticity. If they say, hey, I've got an example of this too that I can tell you about on my Facebook business page again on yesterday. Yeah, yesterday was Sunday, right? Yesterday, I got another batch. I got more boosts from Facebook, and this is on my Facebook business page. Like, it's not hard. You can see on my Facebook business page, I have over 5,000 followers. I get next to 0 engagement. But as I've told you so many times, the number of people liking and commenting and things like that, they're vanity metrics for the most part. What helps you with your ranking is information that is useful, and that's measured by how long somebody spends reading the thing. So, for example, with me, with my stuff, sometimes I'll write super duper long posts. It's not always intentional. Sometimes I'm just on a rant and I will just write a really long post. Other times they're perhaps not so long, but they might be controversial or provoke thought or get people thinking and stuff like that. And people come back to the post. So it's really about, having a mix of content. Sometimes I do sell. Other times I don't. I'm just being myself. I have pictures on my business page and my personal profile of me out walking, who, at the local PARK with all the other DOGSs. And, I put a little caption with that. But the thing is that that's just me being me. Yeah. I'm out at the PARK. in like my grotty t-shirt because I've been doing stuff around the house all morning and I didn't get changed and I don't have any makeup on and I'm just there with my older Kubra hat and I'm just walking around. I'm like, I'm going to take a picture of me and my dog right now. It doesn't always have to be a formal headshot. It doesn't always have to be something that you've run through ChatGPT 10 billion times. And no. And get this, like I have so many spelling mistakes, not because I can't spell, but because, as you heard last time, I just happen to be using, I think it's a very old phone now by Apple standards. It's very old. It's a iPhone 13. And when I feel inspired, I usually don't have my glasses. I'm usually unprepared to be typing a post and I cannot see anything, like legit. It's like, you know how you've if you've been crying, you know how you try and look but everything is just like a little bit blurry because all the tears are in your eyelashes and stuff like that, and you got to like blink a lot and wipe your eyes dry and everything. It's like what it's like for me trying to type on my phone when I don't have my glasses. And so I'm just doing my best. And then even with editing and going back and checking, just making sure before I hit publish that I've caught all of the missed words and the typos. I will hit publish and then I'll look at it the next morning with my glasses on and I'll see there's 17 typos and 3 words that make no sense because there was autocorrect happening. You know, what I'm telling you is none of that matters because that's not checked. The AI, Google, Safari, Bing, DuckDuckGo, like all of the places don't really care if it's messy. So don't worry, okay? Don't worry about that at all. It's much better to have something that's genuine and that's authentic. So a real picture of you every now and again, mistakes in the post if you're like me, perhaps every now and again, those kinds of things work. If you're posting on your Google business profile and it's just you're just hitting people over the head with your services and your availability and your fees and your office closure and then your office reopens, like it will get noticed by Google, but it's probably not going to trigger any sharing of your website without having all that other less structured, less formal, less formulaic stuff. Okay. So anyway, that's important to know. Now, the other thing too is Google business profiles now inform Google AI overviews. They now inform recommendations on maps. And they now inform the voice and assistant results. So if this is all sounding like gibberish to you, let me just quickly explain. So I just mentioned about the Google AI overviews before, right? If you go into Google right now, do a little search for something like a bakery or something like that in your area, it's going to pull together the AI will pull together information about baking and bakeries and stuff like that. And it's going to put that information right at the very top of your feed on top of before paid ads. Okay. Now, your Google business profile feeds that AI overview in Google across platforms, but especially Google because it's a Google business one, right? So that's what that's about. With the maps recommendations, what happens is if you do happen to provide in-person services and you have an area listed, then people are probably going to say, you know, psychologist near me, social worker near me, supervisor near me, or something like that if they want to see one in person. So if you don't have all of the bits and pieces filled out on your Google business profile, you probably don't have a really good shot of getting recommended. Okay, so that's helpful to know. And then the last one there is the voice and assistant results. So in Google and the app on your phone, you've got an option now where you can like dictate, You can say, hey, like, on the iPhone, hey, go, hey, Siri, blah, blah, blah. And Siri can talk back. I've just triggered my own Siri now. Go away, Siri. Stop listening to me. I do not consent to you listening to my stuff. Yeah, it's very, very important that you understand this, because we want to make sure that you're getting every opportunity to get your stuff in front of people. And so with the app on the phone, you can use the little voice feature and you can ask Google stuff and it's going to answer you back. Now, it's getting that information a lot of the time from a lot of places, but one of the main places is people's Google business profiles. Okay, that's all that is talking about there. Yeah, the Google business content, every single bit that you add to it is treated as verified business data. And so it often outranks websites for both local and service-based queries. So if you haven't filled out all of the bits and pieces, AI is going to fill the gaps without you. All right? We don't want that to happen. Okay? Now, some people will say to me, oh yeah, Brooklyn, yeah, I put together my Google My Business profile. I keep calling it that, sorry, the Google Business profile. And I haven't had any inquiries or referrals. Here's the thing. It is not set and forget, okay? Visibility comes from the fullness of the profile. It comes from the clarity. So not just saying counseling. We want to hear about all of the things that you do and how and why and for who. Consistency and, some regular updates. They don't have to be anything big and heavy and hard and time consuming. If you're already emailing your list or, clients and things like that, and you've had like one go out that was really well received, it would be perfectly okay for you to take a bit of that email. It doesn't even have to be the whole thing, and put it up, right? Even something as low effort as one post every 2 weeks or one new and original image a month can materially improve visibility for your private practice, okay? The other thing too, and this is just the last one, is many therapists are getting visibility and they don't realize it. Okay. This is because they're not tracking. And, I'm such a fan of tracking. Google Business Profile has insights that you can go and have a look at, and it will tell you about searches that clients use to find you, calls, website clicks, direction requests, even for online private practices. And without this, it's really common for women in private practice to underestimate the contribution that the Google Business Profile makes to you being seen and found by your ideal clients. And as a result, they just kind of partially complete it and then they just leave it and totally forget about it, abandon it for all intents and purposes, and they miss out. Whereas their colleagues who keep it fresh and who take the time to fill out all of the bits, they're the ones not paying for ads, they're not panicking, they've got steady inquiries, right? So I would really encourage you from today's episode about how to get some clients without using your socials, take this away, okay? Treat it as a Psychology Today profile, right? A directory listing. Think about it like that, okay? Because it will function for you as a visibility engine, right? So it's going to encourage AI and Google and all of the other moving parts that make up the internet now to recommend you. It's going to validate your business as being trustworthy, and a well-developed Google Business Profile becomes a primary input for AI-driven recommendations. So if you want those, which you absolutely should, you definitely want to go and work on this. But it's like anything, right? The first time you do something, it's probably going to suck a little bit, and you're going to probably be really tired because it's going to be a learning curve, which will, be a bit of a strain on the old noggin. So you're probably going to be tired. You're probably going to be like, oh my gosh, that was such a drain. I never want to do that again. And, all of the things. But it's like anything. You're going to go back and look at it in 3 months or 6 months or 12 months and just go, oh my gosh, well, no wonder it wasn't working. Look at it. It's not very good, is it? It's like anything, right? Even like branding and stuff like that. Like, I'm always in love with my branding. But then I can go back and I can look at previous businesses or previous offers that I had, and, they're all branded, and I look at them and I think, what was I smoking like when I put that together? Like, I was so in love with it back then. But as you grow, as you evolve, as you acquire skills and insight and knowledge, and, you get better at the stuff, like, am I better at branding now than I was when I first started? Absolutely. Am I better at writing for websites now than when I first ever built a website? Absolutely. Am I better at writing a Google business profile now than when I first ever wrote one? Absolutely. And you will be too. So understand that this is something to get up and running. Don't think that it's not working. It's always working. It will start to convert in time. That time is usually about 90 days, as you know. I should call this like the 90-day podcast, I swear. But anyway, it's going to take about 90 days for you to start seeing some traction, depending on the quality of the profile. All right, all the things that we just mentioned there. Very, very important. And yeah, don't go making more changes like all the time, because when you do, it can mess things up in terms of algorithms. That's why get it up, leave it, track, see how it's going in 90 days. Go and have a look at some of those metrics that we just spoke about a moment ago, and then use those metrics to make decisions about what the next thing to do is in your private practice. I know it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And there are absolutely clients that I work with that Google business is like the main, when we track, one of the things that we should all be tracking is where your inquiries are coming from. And I work with clients, and nearly it's like 70+% of their inquiries are coming from Google searches and their website. So it is legit. It's a big thing. Well worth your time. I think if you don't have one, it is going to be even a bigger learning curve. If you do have one, I would say you're probably looking at to write it properly by your hand, not by chat, by you writing it properly. You could be looking at about 2 to 3 hours. So I would just use your business development time and dedicate it 1 week to getting this done thoroughly and properly. And then before you go and publish everything, I would just, as I said, write it by your hand in a notepad or a journal or on some paper, set it aside for a day or two, come back and have a look at it with fresh eyes, show it to a loved one, show it to a colleague, a friend or something, and see if it makes sense, how readable it is. Also read it out aloud before you post it, stuff like that. So you want to do the refining before you post it. It's not good to put things up anywhere online and then have to take stuff down to fix it. It really does mess with all kinds of things. So always, always, always don't publish a first draft. Publish a first attempt, not a first draft. So that's what I want to share with you. This is strategy number 2. Once you've spent that afternoon, I'm just saying afternoon because I don't want you to rush, right? I want you to take time with your cup of tea, sitting out in the sun, just enjoy the process. Like, you get to do this because you got to run a business, right? You chose this. So this is exciting. What else was I going to say? I forget. I think I was just going to say, about an afternoon initially, and then you're just going to want to go and give it a little bit of a tiz, a little bit of a freshen up, pop something new up as a post on the Google business profile, maybe once every 2 weeks or once a month. just something, okay? Just something. And you can absolutely repurpose existing content. But like I've also shared a bunch of times, don't just like spam all the platforms with the same piece of content, because it ruins it for you, especially now. Like before, LinkedIn would only have access to the LinkedIn content, and Meta would only really be concentrating on what you were doing on Instagram and Facebook, for example. But now, because of the AI, they look everywhere. So if those different platforms see that you're just spamming all of the platforms, none of them are going to give you much reach. And if you want to know if that's happening for you and your posts, all you have to do is go and check your insights on any of those platforms. And if they're really low, you've got your answer. So the way you write for your email, for your website, for a Google business profile, for socials if you are on them, it's different for every platform, because every platform has a different function, different purpose, different audience that it's connecting with and that it is marketing to. So that's why, don't do it. So take a piece of content that is already doing really, really well. I would just, if it's an email, go back into your emails and see which email got the most click-throughs, or go into, if you're podcasting, go back and have a look at the podcast that had the most listens or plays. Or if you are also on Facebook or Instagram, scroll back through your feed for the one that had the most traction, right? Like, it gets to be easy. We're not going to be constantly making up content. Go and grab what already worked and just give it a little bit of a freshen up to make it Google business appropriate, and whack it up, and you should be good to go. So I hope that this was helpful. Just before I finish up, somebody was asking me about the applications for Practice Momentum. The next intake is the 1st of March, and you can apply any day of the year. You will always hear back about the progress of your application. Basically what happens is you go, have a read of the information. If it aligns with you and you would like to apply, go ahead and apply. You will get an email from me within a day or two during the week, just to let you know how it progressed and what stage it's at. If you were successful and it does progress onto the next stage, then you'll be invited to interview. And during that interview, I'll be asking you a bunch of questions, and you will also have an opportunity to ask some questions too. After that, you will then, be updated about how that went and so on. So that's what it looks like. The whole thing does not take that long. It really only takes maybe about a week from start to finish at the outset, most of the time, depending on people's availability and things like that, of course. So you get an answer pretty quickly. And then if you're successful, if your application is successful and you qualify and you're offered the place and you accept the place, all of the things, then you go on the wait list. And then when it's the 1st of March, you get an email with all your onboarding and your logins and stuff like that. Sometimes there are people that I'm working with that might finish Momentum, or they might hit pause because of life, or they might complete Momentum and then move into Ascend or something like that. So Momentum is for private practice if you're starting or growing. Okay, so you might have been in it for a while even, but not have enough clients, or it might not be where you need it to be. So that's starting or growing. And then Ascend is for established businesses that already have enough clients. The revenue is not something that we're worrying about. The issue is we want to introduce group programs. We want to move to a one-to-many model. We want to create passive income streams. We want to do those kinds of things, right? Maybe hire a team member, an employee. So it's that kind of next stage of practice type stuff. That's what we do over there in Ascend. So there's pathways is what I'm saying for people who need support with their business. And this is what it looks like in terms of how do you apply and when can you start. So if somebody moves into the Ascend program, for example, and a place then becomes available in Practice Momentum before the 1st of March or whichever quarter it is at the time, then that position that's become available is offered to the first person on the waiting list. Okay, so you can get in and start before the official cohort. So I hope that answers people's questions. But of course, if you have others, let me know. Anyway, my lovelies, I will let you go. I hope that this was super duper helpful. If it was helpful, I would be incredibly appreciative of a review. If it's a bit tricky to figure out how to do it on whatever platform you're listening to, just go and leave it on Facebook. Leave me a nice little message in the messenger on Facebook or on a post or something like that. I would be very, very grateful. All right. Have a beautiful, beautiful night. I hope that this was helpful, and I will have another one for you soon in a couple of days on a third way to get clients for your private practice really easily without being on social media. Okay, bye. And that's a wrap for this episode of the Private Practice Podcast. So as you reflect on today's insights, imagine creating real success in your private practice without going down rabbit holes or exhausting yourself with business activities that don't move the needle. With Practice Momentum, you have push of a button help available on demand. It's like having an expert in your pocket ready to guide you whenever you need it. Visit brooklynstorm.com to discover how Practice Momentum can transform your approach to building a thriving practice. I'm Dr. Brooklyn Storm, and I'll see you next time as we continue exploring the mind, business, and spirit of private practice success.